Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at some r/am I the butthole posts. These are always a lot of fun and pretty weird half the time. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, then stick around, like, subscribe, and enjoy. Starting off, am I the butthole for refusing to go to my mother-in-law's for dinner anymore? I want to preface this by saying that I am on the spectrum and therefore struggle with nuanced social situations, which is why I'm reaching out to Reddit for some third-party advice. My mother-in-law has recently moved back to our hometown after finally escaping from her ex. My husband and I were unaware of the severity of the situation because my mother-in-law made efforts to hide it, and I know that my husband is feeling very guilty about it. But mother-in-law is doing better and has her own little apartment in town and has been working and rebuilding her life. We've made efforts to support her as much as possible, but we're in a tight spot financially, so what we can do is limited. For the past few couple weeks, my mother-in-law has been inviting us over to her place for dinner multiple times a week. She has always loved to cook, and she is excited to get to cook for the family again. Plus, she gets to spend time with our toddler. The problem is that she has consistently told us to be there around 6 p.m, only for her to not have dinner ready until 9 p.m. 9 p.m? 9 p.m. or later, and she refuses any help in the kitchen. Mate, by 9 p.m, I'd be eating the door frame. Be absolutely starving. No way. No, I would be crying in the corner and throwing a little toddler tantrum. I'm not going to lie. 9 p.m. is far too late to be eating. God, by about 3 p.m, my stomach thinks my throat's been blooming cut. It's ridiculous. This is a major issue because we wind up staying out past our daughter's bedtime. Her whole nightmare routine gets thrown off, and it makes it harder to get her down for bed. Not to mention how cranky she gets waiting for food. Yeah, I can't imagine even attempting to get a toddler to wait until 9 p.m. to have food. My kids get back from school at about 3:30 and are absolutely starving and acting like they've never been fed before. Goodness me. I've tried to gently talk to my mother-in-law about this, but she has always been critical of me and my parenting. She thinks it's outrageous that I keep my daughter on such a strict schedule and insists that when her kids were little, they didn't have schedules and just ate when they were hungry and fell asleep when they were tired, and it worked out just fine. Good for you, because I think that you would be the outlier there, mother-in-law. I asked my husband to talk to his mum about it, but she basically told him the same thing, then went off on him about how she was just trying to help us out financially by providing a few meals for us, and how it was terrible of us to try and make her feel bad for just wanting to spend time with her family. So he dropped it, and we've been back to her place for dinner a couple more times since then, and it's still being served at 9 p.m. And she's been making passive-aggressive comments about how I need to loosen up and how I can't expect the world to stick to my schedule. Yeah, I mean, that's fine, but making food for 9 p.m. is taking the absolute pee, isn't it, really? And my husband thinks we should just put up with it because his mum has been through so much and he feels partially responsible because he was unaware of the situation and wasn't able to protect her. But after a particularly critical phone call with her yesterday, I told my husband that I did not want to go to her place for dinner anymore. He insists that she's just stressed because of everything she's been going through and we need to show her some leniency. I told him that she can come over to our place for dinner every now and then, and that would be fine. But I'm not going to be held captive at her apartment anymore. We didn't really come to an agreement though, and I'm thinking that maybe I'm being too harsh on my mother-in-law and torturing my husband in the process. So Reddit, am I the butthole? No. No! Who on earth thinks it's acceptable to serve up dinner at 9 p.m, especially for guests with small children? If you're inviting people round and they keep repeatedly telling you, we need to be eating before such and such a time because otherwise my kid's going to be a nightmare. It's not fair on the child, mind you, because kids, they need to be eating a hell of a lot earlier than that and going to bed an awful lot earlier than that too, if possible. Obviously, I know it's very, again, nuanced. You can't really shove kids in bed if they're not tired. One of mine decides to get up and down until like 11 o'clock at night most nights. I just keep having to put them back. And it's like a whole flaming routine we have now. But, those do pass. I had it the same with my eldest, and it passes, and they get it. And honestly, my eldest takes themselves to bed and quite often is fast asleep snoring before 9 p.m. So no, that's far too late. It's far too late for an adult to be eating at 9 p.m. I feel I would be absolutely starving, and I'd be the moodiest mare you'll ever meet in your life if I was being fed that late. But you've given her a solution. You've literally said, look, we're happy to come and have food with you, but please, can you serve it earlier? Like, how hard is that? So no, I don't think you're being the butthole at all. You've offered a solution. You've brought up the issue. You've offered a solution. So now you're saying, right, if you can't get your act together and get on a good schedule with it, we'll do it at my house, which is very fair, because what she's saying is she wants to be spending time with you guys. Well, she can spend time with you at your house then, on your schedule. So no, and I feel like, I know this sounds really mean to say, because obviously mother-in-law has been through a lot, but I feel like she's using that, knowing full well how your husband feels, to kind of make him feel like he has to go, whether he wants to or not. Do you know what I mean? She's making mum says, not the butthole. Child rearing theories have evolved over the decades since your mother-in-law raised free-range children. I nearly said free-range eggs then. If you absolutely cannot refuse the invitation, which is not a summons, by the way, pack some dinner for your little one and stick to your bedtime routine so she isn't cranky and fussy. Yeah, I'd be like, okay, husband, if you really can't get her to come here and she really doesn't want, to give up having it at her house, I am just going to stay at home with the kid. You can go on your own. If mother-in-law still has a problem with it because waiting for 3 hours past a specific time isn't rude at all, then you need to present a united front with your spouse that your daughter will have a structured routine. Info, what does she make that requires 3 hours of prep time? Yeah, like, just make something simple. I'll eat anything. When you're hungry, you're hungry. And then the OP replies, it's not that she's consistently cooking that whole time. She'll do some prep, then take a smoke break, then do a little more, and then take a play with the baby break, then a coffee break, then she'll do a little more cooking, then take a phone call outside, then another smoke break. Apparently, this is how she's always done things. And then Dr. VI2, or VL2, can't quite read that, my eyes are going funny, says, so she's exposing your baby to secondhand smoke? Definitely not the butthole. Yeah, that and that alone is a reason to not be going. And I would say that would be where OP is the butthole too. If you're taking your kid there, knowing full well she's smoking in the house, she might be smoking outside. So, I mean, still gross, but it is what it is. But if she's smoking in the house where your kid is, I'd be like, I'm not coming purely because of that, Secondhand smoke is almost worse, actually. I think there was a study out not so long ago that I was sort of watching a little mini documentary on, and they were saying that secondhand smoke is almost worse because it's not filtered through the end of the thingy. So obviously on the end of the ciggies, you get like that little filter, don't you, on the end of it? And they were saying because it's coming out the front and it's not passing through that filter, it's got even more like crap in it, basically. So secondhand smoke is almost worse than consistent, smoking yourself. If you're consistently around secondhand smoke, it can be really, really bad for you. So yeah, I would say that's where OP might be quite the butthole for not putting that, nipping that in the bud. Next up, am I the butthole for defending my daughter's comments towards my other daughter being single? Oh dear, these are never good. When it's one sibling against the other, I've noticed a running theme on Reddit that it tends to be that the parents like to play favourites. So let's get into it, shall we, and see if we have a case of that here. My daughter, 17F, Emily, has been dating this boy, 17M, Zach, for around 2 to 2.5 months now, and he recently came to visit us. And this is the first time he has come over for dinner, and this is Emily's first boyfriend. I'm sorry, this reads really badly with all the ands in there, so I do apologise if I trip over my words. Zach is a very lovely boy and very outgoing. When he came in and saw me, he says, Emily, I didn't know you have 2 sisters. Oh, smooth, Zach, smooth. I laughed, as even though it's cliche, I know he's trying to be nice. The entire time at dinner, he was very polite, but he is also a very outgoing kid. He would say stuff such as, "What a lovely dinner, this food is great, your backyard is beautiful," etc., etc. So while you could say he was trying to be overly polite, he was still very sweet and kind kid. Emily is a more shy and reserved person, so I felt they were really great for each other. Emily is also very sweet and positive, another thing they have in common and that I appreciate. My husband also hit it off with him, and they were engaging in sports banter and eventually came to trash talking some football team owner. My older daughter Amy, 19, however, kept grilling the poor guy, asking if he would pay for dates, to which he said, yeah. And then she asked how he has money, and he said, his job. Then she started talking about making time for Emily in between school, friends, and a job. And then it came on to how they would get to dates, and she started asking him about his license. Then she started asking him about protecting her, making comments about his stature. He's on the shorter side and kind of chubby, like 5'7" and maybe a little overweight. Nothing crazy, however. And he seemed to be getting uncomfortable, so I brought out dessert, which he again complimented, and my husband brought up sports to change topics. Yeah, I mean, Amy's definitely overstepping there, grilling this poor lad like that the first time meeting him. If you want to find out intentions, that's absolutely fine, but you got to do it a little bit slyer than that, so you don't look like you're just being a horrible person and just trying to put them off. But, she might just be being protective. Still not acceptable, though. After he left, I asked her why she would do that. She said that he seemed too nice and cliche, as if he was faking it. I said, so people can't be nice these days? You made it weird for him and Emily. Emily didn't deserve that, and neither did he. She said that she just didn't like the vibe, as no one is that nice or positive. It was definitely forced. But of course it is. It's his first time meeting the parents, and he's literally a kid. He's just trying to put on a good show. And fair enough, it could be completely fake, but you can't tell that from one meeting. You can definitely get an off vibe from the first time meeting someone, but I do think you have to give them a couple more chances before you solidify your decision on that, Emily butted in and said that she really didn't appreciate that and said that Amy's reasoning didn't make sense. Amy said that she didn't care if it was awkward, as she wanted to grill him, and that she doesn't like him because he seemed fake. Emily said that Amy was messed up, and I agreed. Amy then said that he was a dumb, weak kid faking being nice, and this upset Emily and me. Emily then said in a fuss, "You only say that because you're single and no one will date you." She has been slightly sensitive about this, as she hasn't been in a committed relationship yet. This upset Amy, and Amy asked why I didn't say anything or stop her from going to her room. I said that she's just insulted her boyfriend and that she deserved it. She told me I should punish her and was being a bad parent, and now Amy isn't talking to me, and I feel that maybe a personal insult like that was too far. Yeah, I mean, that was definitely below the belt. That was definitely below the belt. I think Amy's behaviour was not acceptable either. If you have that kind of vibe off someone, just give them a chance first. It was the first time meeting. Again, he's a teenager. He's nervous. Give him a chance. Figure him out first. He could be an absolute lying little rot bag. I was trying to think of a nice word to use then. But it could also be that he's nervous and he's literally just repeating what he's seen other confident men when meeting the new family do on TV and stuff. Because to be quite fair, that is the typical run-of-the-mill sort of sitcom, new boyfriend meeting the family, kind of thing. Like when they're trying to really show that they're a nice guy and that's how they do it. And then it all turns out well in the end. So give the boy a chance. But also, Emily, that was really flaming mean. All in all, I think Amy was definitely the butthole in this. I do think, though, that OP should have stepped in and just said, look, you keep your flaming opinion to yourself, Amy, until we've gotten to know the guy. Give him a chance. And Emily, you go and cool off somewhere and do not say things like that again, That's the best way to have dealt with it, I think. Anyway, let's have a look at the comments and see what everybody else thinks. So Square Minimum 6042 says, Amy was out of line. The poor boy was a guest in your house and you should have cut her off and not allowed her to treat him so poorly. Absolutely. I get that he was over the top with compliments, but he's a kid and was nervous. Precisely. Amy was the butthole, but you really should have stopped her. Yeah, OP just kind of sat there and did nothing. And then Days Chong says, I feel like OP is the butthole, not because she didn't defend Amy, but the fact that she allowed her guest to feel uncomfortable. Why didn't she stop Amy from interrogations? Also, why didn't she stop Amy from grinding on her sister like that? Enough that the sister has to say a remark that obviously hurt her sister. Why don't OP just step in and say, look, stop being rude, Amy, and let's enjoy the evening, and we don't need to interrogate our guest here. Yeah, I do think that OP just basically sat back and waited for the fireworks to happen. Like, you're the parent, my love. Your kid is quite blatantly being hella rude to a guest. You're supposed to nip that in the bud when it happens. So what are you doing? I too am going to grant the butthole to this one, to be fair. And I don't know if I've done that yet. This may be the first. Next post, am I the butthole for not inviting my nephew on vacation? For the last 20-ish years, I've planned a family trip. I love to travel, and this is a way to include my siblings and their children, 10 people in total, in my passion and a fun way to spend time together. I cover the costs of the tour and transport to the destination, and they cover the tips and incidentals. So far, we've gone to Turkey, South Africa, Vietnam, Croatia, Panama, Mongolia, and Iceland. Flippin' heck. Can I be your sibling, please? Although I don't really like to travel. I don't like aeroplanes. I like my own bed. I don't know. Still, can I try and be your sibling just for a bit? See if I like it? It's typically about 4,000 to 6,000 per person. Holy boo on a stick. How much money do you have? I polled the family on their availabilities about 18 to 24 months prior to the planned trip. That sounds very reasonable. My nephew, late 20s, has RSVP'd yes for the last 4 trips, only to back out at the very last minute, think like the week prior. Such that I can't recoup the cost of his fare, and the reasons he doesn't make it are never acceptable for a travel insurance claim. Work emergency, he's an accountant, friend's wedding, constant tickets, high school 10-year reunion. I'm currently planning a Galapagos cruise for October 2026 and decided not to extend the invite to my nephew because he's unreasonable. Are you going to see the little tortoises? The massive tortoises. I say little, they're friggin' huge. That sounds so fun. Isn't the Galapagos Islands as well where they have like hella diverse Isn't the Galapagos Islands as well where they just have like a really diverse range of like animals and creatures and plants that you don't find anywhere else? Like, that is a once in a lifetime kind of trip. Now most of my family are outraged, and though not actually boycotting the trip, are incessantly vocal on their displeasure at my targeting my nephew. Well, if they're so bothered, they can scrape together and pay for his travel themselves, can't they? I've tried to compromise by requesting that he give me a deposit with the plan that I return it if he actually comes. Well, that's a fair offer. But this only seems to make people angrier. I mentioned cancelling the entire thing, and now only my younger sister is speaking to me. She tells me that the family is in uproar about my selfishness. Oh my god. And discussing writing me off permanently if I actually cancel the trip. I am in tears and just don't know what to do. I love my family. Was it an a-hole move to exclude my nephew? No, absolutely not. And to be quite honest with you, your family is showing you exactly what they think of you right now. They are showing you that they see you as nothing but a flaming cash cow for a free holiday. Do not let them treat you like that. That is absolutely disgusting, and your family are entitled and deserve knocking down a peg or two. I wouldn't be taking any of them. They seem like the most ungrateful assholes I've ever seen. And then down in the comments, Human Obligation 3621 says, so in the last 4 years, your nephew has wasted somewhere between 16k and 24k of your money, and no one in your family thinks that there's anything wrong with that. They clearly think you have an endless amount of money and feel entitled to it. I would absolutely refrain from planning further vacations for them since they are treating you so badly. His parents should be mortified that he has repeatedly done this and offered to cover any non-refundable costs, since he has not had the grace to do so himself. You are definitely not the butthole. How does your family treat you when you are on these vacations? How do they treat you over the course of your day-to-day life? Their current behaviour does not trend with people who are appreciative and gracious. It would align more with people who are selfish and entitled. Abso-friggin-lutely. The issue for your nephew is that he has no skin in this game. He did not find out about these conflicts the week before, he just didn't tell you about them. Sounds like when it came down to it, he just didn't really want to go on these trips. Does he not realise you incurred non-refundable costs? Did he accept the invitations, or did his parents accept on his behalf without consulting him? If they accepted on his behalf, maybe they are reacting poorly now out of guilt because this actually is their fault and not their son's. Well, their son's a full-grown adult, though. He's an accountant, so he needs to take responsibility in that case, because if it's happened more than once, and he knows that they're going to accept the place on the trip, that even though he hasn't agreed to go, he needs to be telling them, no, do not be saying that I will go, because I don't want to. Assuming you still want to go on trips with these people, I would talk to him directly and explain all the costs incurred on his behalf over the past several years. Tell him that you will include him this year if he pays that last year's non-refundable costs. Tell him the date he is to let you know by if he intends to back out. After that point, he won't be invited again unless he pays those non-refundable costs. And by the way, this is all very disrespectful and not how you should treat someone who is giving you a free vacation. Exactly. I'm absolutely blindsided by the complete cheek of it. I wouldn't take any of these ungrateful bumholes. Ola Fabi says, not the butthole. Your family's collective entitlement is very concerning. This is the definition of being taken for granted, or worse, this massive gift of financial output and emotional labour, coordinating big groups isn't easy, has slid from something they're given to something they're owed. So when your nephew backs out at the last minute, he gets grace. But when you set boundaries with plenty of notice, you get shamed. Something deeper isn't right with this entire dynamic. Yeah, they are completely taking the pee out of you, OP. Stop letting them. They don't give two shites about you, to be honest with you. If they did, they wouldn't be doing this to you. They wouldn't be treating you this way. They'd be saying, no, that's absolutely fair. We completely understand that you don't want to lose 16k over the course of a few years, because who on earth would? They would be telling nephew, get your ass into gear, pay for yourself, or you don't come. What they're basically telling you here is they see you as nothing but a free holiday. You need to listen to the between the lines of what they're saying, you know? I, unfortunately, genuinely feel like they don't care about you as much as you care about them, because if they did, they would not be treating you this way. Am I the butthole for moving all my daughter's belongings to my parents' house and leaving nothing for my husband's affair kid? Ooh, spicy title. Am I the butthole for this? My husband told me Saturday that he had had an affair and had a kid from it. Ouch. Our kids are 14M and 10F, and this child is 9F. So he's had this affair kid for like 9 years. Wow. Something happened to her mother in the last couple of weeks. I was a little too busy screaming at him to listen to the details. Fair and valid. And he was leaving to go get her. My daughter came to me crying, saying that he told her that she had to share her room and her stuff with this girl for now. I called my parents and they agreed to her staying in their guest room. 2-bedroom condo, so my son and I are staying at the house. Good. This is so disgusting of your husband to just be like, my affair kid's just going to come and live with us now, and you're all going to have to just deal with it. Like, fair enough, yeah, he should take parental responsibility for the kid. However, you can't just spring that on your family that had no idea this kid existed. Like, this needs to be done in increments and carefully, and to be quite honest, he needs to have done it in a way that allows his wife to call off the marriage if she wasn't happy with it, not just be like, by the way, I have an affair kid and she's moving in with us. Like, what? We packed her stuff, and Monday, my parents, sister, brother-in-law, and nephews helped us move all her stuff to my parents' place. They also helped put locks on my bedroom and my son's bedroom. We moved all my husband's stuff from my bedroom to the fourth bedroom that he used as a home office. Good. Good. Oh, this husband sounds like an absolute piece of work, doesn't he? Yesterday evening, my husband got home with his affair kid. He got mad about all the stuff being gone and nothing being left for her. She's from a much warmer area and doesn't have clothes for the cold here. We live in the northern part of the US. This morning, he caught me in the kitchen to complain to me about it again and said I was being cruel for not making my daughter share with her. Am I the butthole? Absolutely not. It's his responsibility. He needs to sort it out and work it out himself. He had an affair, and as much as I feel for this kid that something's happened to her mum and now she's having to live with this random bloke that she doesn't know, I'm assuming, although who knows, he could have been keeping a relationship with her this whole time. You know, she's having to come and live with this random guy and their random family, and I really do feel for the kid because it's not their fault. However, there are also the kids that were already in the house to consider, and the wife. Because what the hell, man? Like, what the hell? Honest, where do they find the audacity? I would love to know. OP is definitely not the butthole. Sunny Bunny Hop Hop says, I mean, definitely not the butthole for refusing to make your daughter share her belonging with your husband's affair child, but also, like, what is your ultimate game plan here? From the post, it sounds like you've completely relocated your daughter to her grandparents' house. Even if she gets to keep all her stuff with her, it's not fair to move her out of the house just to safeguard her belongings. But that's on OP's husband. OP's can only do with what she can at the moment, because obviously she can't move herself and her son there with two of the grandparents too, because it's not big enough. Honestly, it sounds like you need to kick the husband to the curb and let him figure out how he needs to care for his affair child. If you intend to stay with the husband for some reason, then you need to seriously work through these logistics to ensure your daughter can come home, and figure out how your husband's affair child factors into that equation. I mean, yeah, it's easy to say kick him out, but if they have shared ownership of this house, I think quite legally, it's quite difficult to be like, no, you have to leave, because he can just refuse. And in a lot of places, I know, especially here in the UK, if your name is on a house, if you say, I want you to leave, they can go no. And they have their absolute right to do that. You can't just boot them out if they are on the house. It's one of those, well, tough. You got to work it out between yourselves kind of thing. So the OP does actually say, I'm going to file for divorce. My plan right now is for my daughter to stay with her parents until he moves out or I move out. Yeah, because it is absolutely unfair of your husband to just all of a sudden go, oh, by the way, daughter, here's a sister you didn't know about, and you have to share everything with her. Like, it's not fair on her, and I think that that is a good idea. It just gets their daughter out of the line of fire for now, so that she can not feel completely messed up by this, or not too messed up by this. She still had to move out. But, you know, it's like, husband doesn't care at all about his kids or his wife. He only cares about this affair kid. And it's really just, I'm baffled. It's so wrong. Restore Furniture 179 says, who owns the house? Kick him out so you don't have to make it harder for your kids. And then, see what I mean? OP says, both of us, so I can't kick him out right now. Exactly. If you're both on the house, you just have to come to an agreement between yourselves. I'll try to get it in the divorce, but we may end up selling. And to be honest, that may be for the best. A nice clean break and then get your own place. Am I the butthole for yelling at my sister for putting her phone on Do Not Disturb and leaving her first grader at school without picking him up? Genuinely thought that said D&D, by the way, at first, and I was like, what does Dungeons and Dragons have to do with this? So, today at 4 p.m, my nephew's elementary school called me. He's 7 years old and in first grade. He had been left at school for about 40 minutes after dismissal, and the office said they couldn't reach anyone on his emergency contact list. They asked if I could get in touch with his parents, my sister, and her husband. I tried calling both of them, but their phones were on Do Not Disturb. The calls would ring once and go straight to voicemail, which was odd because their phones should usually ring a few times before going to voicemail. Since neither of them was reachable, I got concerned and decided to pick up my nephew myself. While I was on my way, I kept trying to call my sister. She finally called me back about 90 minutes after when the school first tried to reach her, saying she and her husband had just been napping. I was furious. It felt incredibly irresponsible for them to leave their child stranded at school and silence their phones, especially as a parent of a young child and a toddler. Yeah, that is so irresponsible. If you're going to go for a nap, okay, fair, whatever. Set an alarm and don't put your phone on Do Not Disturb. Her excuse was that her husband had asked his grandparents to pick up my nephew, but there was a miscommunication. I told her that if it was the plan, she shouldn't have put her phone on Do Not Disturb because emergencies like this happen. Her response shocked me. She said she likes putting her phone on Do Not Disturb during naps, and if I was going to react this way, she would remove me from my nephew's emergency contact list. She also added that I was the last contact on the list anyway, because her in-laws, the grandparents, were listed first. She then accused me of overreacting, saying that normal people wouldn't get angry about something like this. She even mentioned that she's made a lot of new friends this year and now she understands how normal people act. Yeah, whatever, you absolute liar. Are all those friends crackheads, by the way? Any chance? Is that why they think it's normal? I found this insulting because I was the only one responsible enough to answer the school's call and make sure the child was safe. Yeah, and again, are all those friends crackheads? She continued justifying herself, saying it's normal for people not to answer their phones if they're busy at work or in meetings. She insisted that having a phone on Do Not Disturb was necessary because she naps with a toddler and needs complete silence. By the end of the conversation, she tried to make me feel like I was in the wrong for being upset. She said I had a right to be concerned, but no right to be angry or yell at her. I beg to differ. She then added that she doesn't like spending time with family because there's always an argument when she talks to us. Who's the common denominator then? This left me completely baffled. Instead of showing any gratitude for my help, she threw backhanded insults at me, even though I was the one who ensured her child's safety. Her reaction made me question whether I was wrong to be upset, but I still feel her behaviour was irresponsible and ungrateful. It was irresponsible and ungrateful. And do you know what you want to do? You want to say, fine then. Do you know what? Tell them not to call me. Take me off of the list from the school so they won't contact me anymore, because I can tell you something for free. Couple more episodes of them not being able to get in touch with her when her kids should be being picked up, and they'll be referring it to, I'm guessing this is in the US because a lot of these tend to be, CPS is what you call it over there, I think. You know, social services. The school will refer it to them because they're going to start to assume that there's something wrong. I mean, to be quite fair, I'm assuming there's something wrong because who does that? TD looks and says, not the butthole. Your sister is totally irresponsible, and the fact that she won't even own up to it is further proof of her irresponsibility. She should be apologising and thanking you. As a fairly recent parent, I can tell you that the days of Do Not Disturb end when you have a child. Yeah, hear. That is a responsibility bigger than yourself, and there is no room for miscommunication or excuses. Yeah, and your sister saying, oh, people, if they were in work meetings, would have to put their phone on Do Not Disturb. Okay, maybe they might. But what they would then do is say to the secretary, I've given the school your number because I can't have my phone in here. So if anything happens, could you please get in touch with me, or the receptionist, or someone else in the office? You'd have a backup plan. You wouldn't just turn your phone off and be like, sod them kids. And as far as her in-laws being on your nephew's contact list, the school could not reach them. So she's going to put her reliance on the people that couldn't be reached while her son was waiting outside alone. The same people whose miscommunication was the reason that he didn't get picked up. If that's even true, sounds like BS. That's pretty damn stupid. I'd make sure that your nephew has your number and keeps it with him so he can at least call you next time something stupid like this happens. That's assuming he's old enough to, though. He might be little. He might only be like 6 or 7. In which case, even worse, because the poor little lad probably has no idea why his parents just haven't been bothered to pick him up. Lord Mwahaha. LOL, right? OP should straight up say, well, the first people on your emergency contact list didn't effing answer, so if you're going to remove me, I guess your child will just be stuck at school, thinking you're dead next time. Wonder how long it would take for the school to call CPS for child abandonment. Exactly, if it keeps happening, they're going to start assuming that there's something going on, and I'll bet you any money they're going to assume that the parents are on drugs. Okay, so I think that'll do it for today. I have just looked on how long I've actually been recording, and it's on like 46 minutes. So this one might be slightly longer. I don't know. By the time I edit it down and cut out some of the absolute waffling I do, it might be a bit shorter, but who knows? We will see. Other than that, if you have made it to the end, then I very much appreciate you. I would appreciate you even more if you would like and subscribe, because obviously it helps you come back here, and I do post videos every single day, so who would want to miss out on that, hey? Other than that, I hope you have a very good rest of your day. I'm going to get off, so I will hopefully see you soon. Goodbye.